much, Sherry, for that very warm welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a Jamaican saying that goes like this. When you fling stone in hog pen, who get hit? Squeal. That is the saying that comes to mind recently when I observed the amount of people from the opposition side who balling down the place these days. The Prime Minister just turned the sod to start construction of the highway to Toko. They ball. Minister Sinanan announced the imminent arrival of a new fast ferry to service Trinidad, the Tobago Sea Bridge. They ball. The Attorney General piloted the civil asset forfeiture bill. They ball like 10,000. The Minister of National Security, at last we have a permanent police commissioner. Well, they're more than balling for that one. Every time there is an attempt to reduce the time from arrest by the police to conviction in the courts, they're balling, and they're balling. Ladies and gentlemen, what is it with these activities by your government that have them so scared? That they're balling every minute, they're balling down the place. But we in the PNM will not be deterred. We will not be sidetracked. We do not have cocoa in the sun except for the cocoa that Sherry just told us about. The last 3.5 years in Parliament have made it abundantly clear to us who sit in the House, and I hope for the national community, that this opposition is not interested in good governance. They are not interested in anything that would benefit anyone other than themselves. And that is why our next speaker has called them unpatriotic. Our next speaker is the Member of Parliament for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West. He is the Minister of National Security. He is the Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister. He is the Minister of Communications. And he is one of our best speakers in the House of Representatives. Ladies and gentlemen, this young man is someone we have all come to love and respect. And Fritz don't mind, I love him plenty. And ladies and gentlemen, I ask you tonight to join with me in welcoming the Minister of National Security, the Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, the Minister of Communications, and the Member of Parliament for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, Stuart Young.
When we touch down, we open shallow. When we touch down, we open shallow. When we touch down, we open shallow. When we touch down, we open shallow.
Good night, Aruka. I have placed my order for that ice cream mango. Political leader and Prime Minister, political leader of the People's National Movement, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, Chairman of the Ladies Movement, Deputy political leaders, my colleagues on the stage and the high table, the Attorney General and Minister Cockburn, all of my cabinet colleagues in front, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters of the PNM, those looking on and listening to us tonight, good evening. On my way here, I was reflecting. On the 6th of August, 2018, I was appointed as the Minister of National Security. Today is the 6th of April, 2019, exactly 8 months later. So I would like to use the opportunity tonight to set the record straight and to share with our national community, through you, the PNM family, exactly what has been going on in national security. Because you would have realized that the detractors following their Cambridge Analytica playbook will continue to put lies, falsehoods, misrepresentations of the truth, distortions out into the public. But tonight is when we will set the record straight. There is not a single person in Trinidad and Tobago that can, with any measure of legitimacy, deny that over the last few months, we have begun to see a wave of change in the national security of Trinidad and Tobago. A great test of that, for me, was Carnival. Carnival 2019. Walking the streets of Port of Spain, San Fernando, central Trinidad and Tobago, along with the other heads of divisions, the Commissioner of Police, the Chief of Defense Staff, Head of Prisons, Head of Fire Services. It was very apparent. You could actually feel it. It was almost tangible that people in Trinidad and Tobago for Carnival were feeling a lot safer. They were more relaxed. I want to tell you that did not happen by VAPS. That did not happen by chance. In fact, this week, two people who have lived in that national security arena remarked that it is the first time that they have been in national security for decades that they're seeing things start to come together in the way it is coming together. And let me explain to you why that is happening. The first person to make that remark in a meeting this week, where it was myself, the Commissioner of Police, the Chief of Defense Staff, and the Director of SSA, was none other than the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Gary Griffith. And he said, when he was in the Defense Force, he was in the President's household, he was in the Prime Minister's household, he was an advisor of national security, he was a Minister of National Security, and now he's the Commissioner of Police. And for the first time, he is seeing all of the various divisions of national security actually start to mesh together. Ladies and gentlemen, that did not happen by chance. We appointed 2 Sundays ago a new Chief of Defense Staff, a young man who we've put at the helm, Air Commodore Darrell Daniel. He was in the same batch as our Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith, when they joined the Defense Force those many decades ago. Our Director of SSA was also in the same batch those many decades ago. Your government took that decision for you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, because when the heads have worked together for all of that time, it is bound to filter down. One of the things I did early o'clock was demand that there be no more siloing. There be no more holding of cards on your chest. So if the police had information, the intelligence services had information, the defense force, the prisons, we must all share the information. Something as simple as that. And every day, multiple times during the day now, we are sharing and exchanging intelligence, information to make sure everybody is on the same page. And that is beginning to reap the rewards and the benefits of that simple decision and the implementation and the demanding that happens. What also happens, at least once a week, we sit with all of the heads, including the prison services. Because you see, the prisons is a very unique place, and there's a lot of information in prisons. There's a lot of intelligence in prisons. It is an integral part of national security. So I am pleased to tell you all today that it has gelled, it is coming together very well, and the sharing of intelligence and information is reaping tremendous rewards in national security, which I'm sure you all feel, touch, and you're feeling a bit more comfortable as we take on this scourge of crime. Let me start with the prisons. Very early in my term, I took a decision to focus a lot on the prison service of Trinidad and Tobago. I have visited all of the prisons except Carrera, some of them on more than one occasion. Immediately upon coming into office, I engaged the Prison Officer Association and told them I'm committed to working with them. What we did immediately is we took a decision to improve the alarm systems at the prisons. We took a decision to provide stab vests to the prison officers. We took a decision to provide them with firearms for keep and carry. And I'm pleased that finally, because sometimes things take a bit too long for my liking in the public service, we expect to sign the contract for the delivery of 250 firearms for our prison officers, keep and carry, on Monday. We have delivered the stab vests. It shocked me that the prison officers did not have stab vests in the environment. We've delivered that and immediately begun the procurement of more. We are improving the physical prisons. You have heard me say now on numerous occasions, when I walk through all of the remand prisons in Trinidad and Tobago, how disturbed I was as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. I am happy that my cabinet colleagues have supported us. We have taken decisions to improve the remand at Golden Grove and the other prisons. The Tobago prison was a disgrace, and we have taken a decision to build a new correctional facility in Tobago, and that is long overdue. One of the most important things that we have decided as an administration is to focus deeper down than just pure infrastructure in prisons. Because the prisoners who are in there, some of them, they've just made a mistake in life. And we can't leave them behind and we can't forget them. So we are paying a lot more emphasis on the reform of those in the prison system. Recently, you would have heard us announce, we've taken a decision to increase from 1 psychologist to over 10 psychologists in the prison service, not only for the inmates, but also for our prison officers who face difficult circumstances. We've increased the number of pharmacists as well. I have personally been working with the prison service. I have accepted their recommendation to reform the policy of how we deal with prisoners in the prison service, to assist them with reform, to have more programs, to increase the looking at parole and these types of things. And I expect that to reap tremendous benefits. Interacting with the prisoners, you can see that some of them want to reform their ways, and we must provide them with the means and the ability to do so. So when they return to our society, they don't return to a life of crime. We're also finishing the video conference court. We took a decision to pass that to the judiciary. As is, where is, let them finish it. We also last week met with the judiciary to finalize plans for the construction of a special court to deal with some of the problematic prisoners who are before the courts. So we don't have to shut down Port of Spain and other areas on certain days of the week. We'll walk them across a yard, take them to court, deal with them, and then put them back where they belong. We are also finally about to implement the electronic bracelet monitoring system. This will allow us to free up some of the space in the prisons with those who we are able to determine don't necessarily need to be in the prison service. There are a lot of persons we have in the prison system who really shouldn't be there. They can't afford bail or for different circumstances. We're doing a whole assessment. You've heard me say as well that I'm stepping up the number of sittings of the Mercy Committee. The Mercy Committee has been sitting over the years, but we're increasing the sittings to ensure that we can deal with some of the prisoners who have made applications to the Mercy Committee. Another very important area in national security is immigration, sometimes often forgotten. And again, I use the opportunity here tonight to thank the men and women in immigration. As I've been traveling throughout the country to Cedras, Tobago, Point Fortin, other areas of Trinidad and Tobago, and meeting with the immigration officers, I am hearing some of their cries. And again, it is a fact and a great litmus test. The carnival period, for the first time in many years, we did not have the reports of long lines at Piarco. So I ask that you give the immigration officers a round of applause for that. The fire service. The fire service is facing difficulty, but they're not forgotten. We are going to be working with the fire service to do as much as is possible with our limited resources. Not too long ago, Minister Dillon and I went down to Point Fortin to see the circumstances that they're operating under. We have located a new parcel of land for a fire station in Point Fortin, but in the interim, they're staying at a Petrotrin bungalow. I have spoken to Petrotrin to lease that to us at a peppercorn rate, and I've told the men and women at that fire station, that substation, we will repair the bungalow in the interim to make conditions better for them. The Prime Minister recently traveled to Tobago, saw the site for the new Roxborough fire station. I've been to the fire station at Crown Point Airport. All of these are areas that we're going to be working along with the fire service to see what improvements can be brought about. The Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force. One of our problems in Trinidad and Tobago from a national security point of view is illegal firearms. The vast majority of violent crimes in Trinidad and Tobago are being committed with firearms. It is because the borders were too porous for too long. So let me tell you how we're tightening up on our border security. And this is where the Defense Force comes in. We have taken a decision to repair our interceptors because it's a massive coastline. We're an island, 2 islands, Trinidad and Tobago. Even though there are a limited number of legal ports of entry, there are hundreds, I think it's over 200 illegal points of entry in Trinidad and Tobago. What we have been doing, and you've been seeing the results of it over the last few months, is using the resources we have in the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard on the north coast, on the south coast, and you saw me launch 2 of the newly refurbished interceptors in Tobago this week, and also a fast patrol vessel in Tobago, and patrolling our borders. As we began to do that, we began to secure the borders better. We are also improving our radar system. I would also like to tell you, people are saying that our relationship is strained with some of our partners, our international partners. Completely untrue. Recently, there's been a new appointment of an admiral to the SOUTHCOM, which is the United States defense mechanism for the whole south of the United States, and we fall under that. He came to Trinidad for something called CANSEC. During that visit, for past administrations, they had been asking us to sign an agreement for us to get access to their satellite and radar system. We signed that recently before the end of last year, and that is now being integrated into our system. That is going to help us tremendously with our borders. These are some of the things. There are many things happening that I can't talk to the public about. But I am sure you will tell me, tell the Prime Minister, and tell everybody tonight that you are feeling an increase in the whole national security environment in Trinidad and Tobago. We have very specially trained men and women in our defense force, in our Coast Guard, and including in our police service. These men and women traditionally were sitting down, training, waiting to be called out, waiting for that one moment. I took a decision to utilize them now. And I am happy to tell you that those special forces in both the Defense Force, our Special Naval Unit, and the MOPS of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service are now working as an interagency, multi-agency task force. And they're out there doing a lot of good work that you wouldn't hear about. You'd only see the end result. You would admit, in fact, coming up here in the car and listening to the news, happening now on a weekly basis, you're hearing of a lot more intelligence-driven operations and the results of us going into certain areas, coming out with narcotics, coming out with firearms, coming out with arrests of persons on outstanding warrants, persons who are pests in the society. Not so? That is because now it is intelligence-driven. It is no longer reactive. It's no longer, well, throw police here, throw police there, send the army and the soldiers in with them. That is a thing of the past. One of the big successes taking place now to secure Trinidad and Tobago better is the multi-agency. You would hear me saying over and over for everything. You put out a threat on a prison officer, we're not leaving the prison officer and the police services to deal with it alone. Intelligence gets involved, the defense force gets involved, and you saw what happened this week. Even though somebody leaked a confidential report of a threat we picked up, It did not frustrate our efforts. Intelligence-driven operations picked up the perpetrator on the outside who was contracted to do harm to one of our law enforcement persons. And that is because of the use of our multi-agencies. Everything now, we're going to be securing Piarco more. I'm using multi-agencies to do it. Because if everybody's singing from the same hymn sheet, wouldn't it improve? Doesn't everybody then move forward in unison and together? The answer is yes. And we're seeing the results of that. So there's multi-agency use being used throughout the whole of national security, from the small jobs to the largest jobs. And they're doing a tremendous job. I have heard, let me turn now briefly to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, one of the first things that the Commissioner and myself had to deal with, because we assumed office around the same time in August last year, was a high-profile kidnapping. You all remember it? The Natalie Polonais kidnapping. I can tell you all that set the tone for our tenure. We worked night and day. I had the multi-agencies or intelligence, the police service or defense force up at 3 o'clock in the morning, working 24/7 and using all of the state's assets and resources to bring that to a successful conclusion. And I thank them because they did. The benefit of that was it set the tone. Immediately they were able to see, when we all sit in the same room, sharing information gathered from different areas, utilizing the same resources, how it could work. And it didn't stop with Natalie Polonais. It continues to this day. And that is one of the main pillars and planks and one of the benefits we're seeing now in a safer Trinidad and Tobago. You've heard those on the other side criticize the anti-gang legislation. You remember how they resisted it? You all remember how they rejected us twice with the anti-gang legislation? And it's only when the population put pressure on the opposition they agreed? Well, do not believe for a moment that anti-gang legislation is not being used. Every single week we meet, there are a number of operations that are taking place, and I can tell you all, because people don't want to report it. They don't want to talk about the successes in Trinidad and Tobago. There have been a number of charges under the anti-gang legislation, including in the Aruca area. A major gang in the Aruca area was the test case for the anti-gang legislation. They have been charged under specific offenses of the anti-gang legislation. That is due to the hard work of our intelligence services and the police service of Trinidad and Tobago. And I am warning all of those gangs out there who think, and maybe for too long felt, they were above the law. There are a number of operations taking place, and we will have success. And persons will be charged and will be brought before the courts of Trinidad and Tobago under that specific anti-gang legislation. So people of Trinidad and Tobago, continue to keep the pressure on the parliamentarians because it has a sunset clause. We told you all when it's implemented, it will take time. It wasn't retroactive to build the evidence, and that is done after intelligence is converted to evidence. Without saying more, I give you the assurance here tonight that is taking place, and you will see the results of it in the not-too-distant future. You remember just before Carnival, there were a number of raids on a number of areas, and a number of persons were picked up. Again, that was not by VAPs, that was not by fluke, that's not Vai-ki-Vai. Intelligence-driven operations. And don't believe persons when they say that they're not charged. Persons who are arrested are not charged, and they're not charged with serious charges. Because when those operations are done, it allows us the opportunity to gather more information and more intelligence. And I guarantee you, more is coming. And I don't make promises, and I don't make guarantees that I know can't be kept. Again, the detection rate in Trinidad and Tobago. I was telling the heads of national security divisions this week. People aren't even realizing, and I heard the Commissioner of Police speak about it this week. Do you realize over the past few months, when a crime is committed, we are now expecting, as a matter of course, within the next few weeks, somebody will be arrested and charged? Something that was not happening with the high percentage that we wanted before, that is now happening. And again, that is not by fluke. So you're seeing, sometimes, unfortunately, crimes are going to be committed, and they would not be able to be prevented. The vast majority of these crimes cannot be prevented in advance. If they can, we are doing it, like you saw this week with the person who wanted to harm a prison officer. But you are seeing the detection rate increase, not so? The police service has also been utilizing technology. This week, I visited the E99 Center with the Commissioner of Police and the 2 permanent secretaries in the Ministry of National Security to ensure that the technology that we, the taxpayers, have paid for in the tens of millions of dollars are going to be properly utilized. We are using the emergency response patrol vehicles, strategically positioning them throughout Trinidad. So once a 999 call comes in, immediately behind them, we have the police officers of the various divisions set up who have access to the 999 call. They have access to monitors that show where the vehicles are positioned throughout Trinidad and Tobago, and they can direct those vehicles. There's use of a lot more technology, some of which can be spoken about, some of which can't be spoken about. But we are going to be using that technology. It is improving. Our CCTV camera system has improved. Over the Carnival period, we installed more cameras at strategic locations. The Carnival and the success of Carnival from a national security point of view was hard work from October of last year. And again is a great example of multi-agency meetings, multi-agency task force working together, and not just putting soldiers and police out on the street. When you walk the streets of Port of Spain and other areas for Carnival, you felt it. You saw the police presence. You saw persons more and more comfortable. And I'm warning you, there are a lot more plainclothes officers, men and women out there protecting us as well. The municipal police was a decision taken by this administration. Minister Kazim Hussain deserves a hearty round of applause for beginning the delivery. The first batch of municipal police was 199 municipal police who qualified. They were then distributed equally through the 14 municipalities, or a number of the bigger municipalities. A second batch has just begun training this week, just over 120 of them, and he will continue that exercise. These municipal police also play a very important part in securing our communities throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Whenever I've had the opportunity to interact with them, I remind them how important they are. They are the ones on the ground in the small communities. They are the ones who you must build the relationships with. And they are now being integrated from an intelligence point of view back to us. So trust the police force. I am sure that everybody in this room is feeling more secure, and you're feeling a higher level of trust and confidence in the police service. Not so? And it is this government that delivered that to you all. We are also leveraging international relationships. You would have seen in January, I took the outgoing Chief of Defense Staff and our Commissioner of Police, Mr. Gary Griffith, with me to the United Kingdom. That was not joyride like the past. That was a very carefully planned and strategic visit. Over a 2-day period, we met with a number of specialist operations who have pledged their support for Trinidad and Tobago. We met with the SO19, which is the specialist organization to counter terrorism. We have opened up the channels of communication. Trinidad and Tobago is back at the top of the list internationally. Thank your government for that. The British government told us in no uncertain terms that the work we have been doing in the last 3 years has resonated throughout the United Kingdom and throughout their prisons, throughout their police service, their intelligence services. They now trust. You're listening to me? They now trust who they are dealing with. They had a problem before. they no longer have that problem. I am proud to tell you that we were able to walk in to a number of the highest secured and sensitive zones in security in the United Kingdom and get access to their top-level people. That was not happening before. We are reaping the benefits of that. We were able to sign and implement. They told me this week it is the first time they have ever seen an international MOU with another sovereign country implemented with the level of pace that it was implemented. It was signed by Minister Dillon. When I came in, I set about implementing it, and we're now reaping the benefits. They told us this week that is the fastest that has ever happened in Trinidad and Tobago. Despite all the old talk, the mischievous talk, the mischief you're hearing out there, we continue to work very closely with the United States and some of our other allies. The United States are donating engines, boat engines for our interceptors. We hope to get those soon. We continue to train with them. They continue to place resources. Just before Carnival, I asked for them to send some of their law enforcement resources here, some of their specialized personnel here. They immediately did it. And we ran a number of operations that helped us throughout Carnival that Trinidad and Tobago wouldn't even know about, but you felt the benefits of. Ladies and gentlemen, I've outlined very, very briefly some, and only some, of what is taking place in national security. I'd like to use the opportunity in conclusion to thank on your behalves and to thank as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago all of the men and women in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, in our Immigration Service, our Fire Service, in our Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, even our lifeguards. When I was in Tobago in Charlottesville this week, I was speaking to the lifeguards. Although they fall under THA, the lifeguards in Trinidad and Tobago as well, our probation officers, all of the prison officers, even the prison officers are telling you that for the first time, because of the use of our multi-agency sharing, they feel better. And we will do all we can to help them and to protect everybody that we can in Trinidad and Tobago. So I want to tell them all, thank you. Would you give them a round of applause, please? I'll end by saying this. As I said earlier this week, we are not intimidated at national security. To all of those criminal elements out there, we are not intimidated. The police are not intimidated, the defense force are not intimidated, prison officers are not intimidated, even our immigration officers, because we are working together. We are going to utilize every single asset and resource we have, even though they may be limited, and we are going after the criminal element. No one is above the law. I give you the assurance in conclusion that at national security, we are ramping up. And this is not rhetoric. It is not cosmetic. It is not old talk. It is happening. We will do all that we can to bring the criminal element to bear and to bring them to justice. And I hope that the criminal justice system is ready and that they will increase their efficiency to deal with the amount of work that we intend to push their way. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the opportunity to share these words with you here tonight.